Live from the Scripps Studios, this is 10 News.
Shot several times and left in a pool of blood along Sunset Cliffs. San Diego police now believe the woman was targeted. Good evening, I'm Steve Atkinson.
And I'm Lindsay Pena. And the woman was found this morning on a staircase next to the beach. 10 News reporter Allison Ash is joining us. And Allison, this is a bizarre case.
Yeah, it really is. You know, initially police thought that all of the shots were in the woman's lower part of her body. She did have a bloody head, but they thought that possibly that was where she hit her head. They now know she was actually shot in the head. Her body found down this stairway about 3/4 of the way to the beach. A passerby made the frightening discovery just after 7 this morning and called police.
They arrived, they found a woman down the stairs below the cliffs, bleeding.
Officers got very little information from her, except that she didn't know who shot her or why.
Some physical evidence was found at the scene. At this time, we do not have any suspect information.
Police won't say what that evidence is or whether it made them believe the woman was targeted.
Kind of surprising, like I wouldn't expect like a gunshot victim, especially since this is such a safe neighborhood.
Joe Carlisle was on his morning run along the cliffs when he spotted the police activity. Other locals watched as workers in hazmat suits cleaned up the blood from the steep stairway turned crime scene.
It's just really crazy. You wouldn't expect it for this kind of neighborhood.
The 19-year-old victim spent most of her day in surgery. She has been upgraded from critical now to stable condition. The investigators are hoping that tomorrow she will be well enough to be able to talk with them so they can try to figure out who did this and why. Of course, we'll keep you posted if any suspects are arrested. Reporting live from Sunset Cliffs, Allison Ash, 10 News.
Strange mystery. Allison, thank you. Now to the crisis in Syria. President Trump warning that U.S. airstrikes will be coming in retaliation for that suspected chemical attack. As ABC's Kenneth Moten reports, the president met with his national security team today to discuss Syria, but said there was no final decision.
The world waits to see if the U.S. and its allies will strike Syria.
We'll see what happens, folks. We'll see what happens. It's too bad that the world puts us in a position like that.
President Trump appears to be backing off earlier Twitter threats against Syria and its ally Russia that smart missiles will be coming after the latest alleged chemical weapons attack by the Assad regime. This morning, Trump tweeting, never said when an attack on Syria would take place. Could be very soon or not so soon at all.
The President of the United States of America says these missiles will be coming. That sounds to me and to the rest of the world like a decision.
Ahead of an afternoon National Security Council meeting with the president, Defense Secretary James Mattis was grilled by lawmakers.
We're trying to stop the murder of innocent people, but on a strategic level, it's how do we keep this from escalating out of control.
President Emmanuel Macron saying, quote, we have proof chemical weapons were used by Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. But there's also this admission from Mattis.
I believe there was a chemical attack and we're looking for the actual evidence.
Congressional leaders also waiting on the president's next move.
I think it's important for us to help lead the international community to making sure that people are held accountable for these mass atrocities.
The Assad regime is denying the use of chemical weapons. Syria's ambassador to the UN announced his country will allow in international inspectors who are on their way to Syria. Kenneth Moten, ABC News, Washington.
And President Trump's choice to be the next Secretary of State has begun the confirmation process. CIA Director Mike Pompeo testified before a Senate committee today. Democrats repeatedly asked whether the president asked him to interfere with the investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election.
I don't recall what he asked me that day precisely, but I have to tell you, I'm with the president an awful lot. He has never asked me to do anything that I considered remotely improper.
And during the hearing, Pompeo also became the first U.S. official to confirm that Russians were killed in a strike by U.S. forces in Syria earlier this year.
All right, Steve, Brian Schlonsky now inside the 10 News Live Center watching some breaking news from Oak Park. I want to take you to Sky 10 shot from just a few minutes ago. Police over the end of a chase. You see them here in this parking lot there. This is around the 3600 block of Federal Boulevard. We know that the chase started when officers tried to pull over the driver for speeding. You see all those officers there, guns drawn around that car. We know just a few minutes ago they did take that driver into custody there in the back of what looks to be an apartment complex. Right now we're working to gather more information about exactly where this is right now. But this chase just coming to an end there in Oak Park. Guys, back to you.
All right, thanks, Brian. A new frontrunner has emerged in the closely watched race for the House seat Congressman Darrell Issa will be vacating at the end of his term. Our new scientific 10 News Union Tribune poll shows Republican State Assemblyman Rocky Chavez leading a crowded field. 10 News reporter John Horn has more in our series Inside San Diego, taking an in-depth look at issues impacting San Diego. And John, these issues can make the Democrats nervous.
Hi, Lindsay, and yes, that's true because the Democrats have spent millions of dollars in an effort to flip this seat in the House from red to blue. But there's no guarantee a Democrat will make it past the June primary. The only certainty, San Diegans are about to be inundated with a blitz of ads leading up to the vote.
And as we say in the business, it's the beginning of hunting season.
Hunting for your vote. And it's going to be costly for the slew of candidates looking to be among the top 2 vote getters in the June primary to get to the November runoff. Republican Darrell Issa has held the seat for more than 15 years.
Some of these candidates, nobody knows who they are. Nobody even knows their name.
Political analyst Laura Fink says that's one reason Republican State Assemblyman Rocky Chavez is leading our scientific poll of 535 likely voters. He's a veteran already holding office in the district, but the rest of the field is very murky.
This is a dogfight. You see the percentages in the poll. It really is anybody's race, depending on what happens in the next several weeks.
Doug Applegate nearly beat Issa in 2016, and the poll still shows him as the top Democrat. But also within the margin of error are new Democrats Sarah Jacobs, Paul Kerr, and Mike Levin, each with more than $1 million raised. And Republican Diane Harkey, who has Issa's endorsement, is right there with them.
It's a horse race. It's anything's possible. It could be one-on-one. It could be 2 of the same party.
Political analyst John Dadian says he's expecting candidates to ramp up their advertising, mailed and TV, to build name recognition. This ad now running for Jacobs, and here's another airing for Kerr.
It's really what people hate is when their mailboxes start filling up. That's when you're going to see movement on the candidates.
Because the candidates want voters to know who they are when the ballot's right in front of them.
The only poll that counts is the one on Election Day.
Now, our poll also showed that President Trump's border wall is the biggest issue for Republicans. For Democrats and independents, it's the president himself. Now, 46% of those surveyed said they approved of the president's performance.
Okay, John, we already saw some ads in your piece. At what point do those ads start to pick up, and do we have any indication on who will start putting out more?
Well, Lindsay, it's interesting because most people now are voting by mail. And because that starts about a month before the election, we're going to start to see in May these ads, these prints coming in the mailbox, the TV ads. And here's the thing to look for. On Sunday, all of these candidates are going to disclose their latest financials. And we're going to see how much cash they have on hand and how much debt they owe people. And the people with the cash on hand, those are the ones that are going to be armed with those ads that we're all going to start seeing all over San Diego County.
Very soon to come.
Yes.
All right, thanks, John.
Interesting. Thank you, John. San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer is proposing a balancing of budget for the upcoming fiscal year. Today, the mayor released his plan. Spending would be nearly $1.5 billion. He will officially give his proposal to the City Council next week to begin the approval process. Mr. Faulconer wants the most infrastructure spending in San Diego history. There's money for more police officers and increased homeless services. There are also more than $14 million in program cuts. That includes a 2% cut in arts programs and eliminating 30 city jobs.
Turning now to our weather, we saw a little bit of sprinkles this morning, but things have cleared up.
Our meteorologist Angelica Campos is tracking those changing conditions. It was an odd morning, very cool and sprinkly at times.
We expected that. We talked about it all week. Our tiny little chance actually materialized to a trace. Wasn't that nice to see this morning, but now it is back to dry again. But the winds are still a problem, and I wanted to show you that first. Looking at 22 miles per hour in Ramona, 32 in Julian, and 22 miles per hour also in Mount Laguna. Gusting up to 30 in Campo. It is also pretty windy at the coast. Areas like Oceanside, La Jolla, with winds over 20 miles per hour. Our high wind warning will stay in effect for a few more hours until 8 o'clock, and then expect a warm up. I'll pinpoint how much warmer it's going to be over the next 24 hours.
All right, thanks, Angelica. A man is in custody after leading a chase across 4 San Diego area freeways. It began this morning with a call about a domestic violence dispute in Lemon Grove. Deputies spotted Robert Perez driving on the 94, but he wouldn't stop. Speeds topped 100 miles per hour. Sky 10 was overhead when deputies found the car parked at an apartment complex in Bonita. Perez had run off into an apartment. The person who lived there was able to escape and alert deputies. They found Perez inside. He is facing 4 felony charges.
All right now the Padres are back home at Petco Park, fresh off their brawl yesterday against the Rockies.
And Steve Smith joins us. And Steve, this is a team that has shown they have each other's back.
Like Andy Green said today, a fight can unite. So we'll have to see. That's a great quote right there. Our suspensions have yet to be announced. Yesterday's benches clearing brawl against the Rockies has been labeled a few things in the last 24 hours, from just plain old retaliation after multiple Padres players were hit by Rockies pitchers, to sending a message letting teams know the Padres will not be pushed around. All right, even Friars great Randy Jones chimed in today applauding Luis Perdomo for the purpose pitch that sent Rocky third baseman Nolan Arenado into a complete tirade towards the mound. Jones saying, all about protecting your teammates, and that's something the Padres were criticized for a year ago when the team did not retaliate after Anthony Rizzo took out Austin Hedges right there at home plate in what appeared to be a dirty slide that injured the catcher. The Padres in green were called out as being soft. So maybe this time around they felt they had to draw the line, and while fighting in baseball isn't something that's encouraged, this situation could bring the team closer together as the season moves along.
I do think teams can become stronger from it. I think it's one thing, like we said earlier, you're on a team, you expect to have everybody's back, and when you physically go through something like that and see everybody having your back and coming together, then yeah, it reassures you that that's true.
I was proud of our guys for sticking together throughout that whole game. When those things happen, it kind of brings your team together a little bit, and I think that's what it did for us.
And the Padres say suspensions may come down as early as tomorrow. The two teams will meet again April 23rd. Once again, that will be in Colorado, so we'll see what happens there.
Yeah,
I think everybody cares about are wins. If this leads to wins, everybody will look back on it and go, this was the turning point.
And Andy Green said today that he's not talking about fights. It's all about the Giants right now who are in town tonight.
All right.
Yep.
See how it plays out. Thanks, Steve.
Well, this drug kingpin who murdered a Southern California DEA agent is now one of the FBI's 10 most wanted. Rafael Caro Quintero killed the agent in 1985. He was caught and thrown into a Mexican prison, but they accidentally released him in 2013. Now he's running the Sinaloa cartel ever since the arrest of El Chapo. The FBI is increasing the reward to catch Caro Quintero to $20 million.